I'm Taylor Barr, your midnight DJ. That was Heavy Things by Fish. I'm Taylor Barr, your midnight DJ. And a cloud rolled over the hills, masking the landscape in plumes of yellow smoke. It tumbled up and over the walls of a Casbah, filling the protected city with its noxious fumes. The smoke filled the lungs of any and all life it passed. It passed into them and grabbed a hold. The smoke was inside their bodies, inside their blood. It pushed at the capillaries in their hands and feet, tugging every person's body towards a single point. The clouds masked the mass exodus, allowing thousands of people and animals to exit the city without guard permissions. The guards, too, had been taken by the possessive wind. The crowd moved slowly, dragging their feet behind themselves, still being controlled. No one had a clue where they were headed. The forests outside the city were tall and thick, and the commoners were not used to this kind of environment. Most of them had never seen a tree grow past their own height. They stumbled into the forests, scattering their mass about the trees. The cloud layer lifts, and the population takes a moment to observe their situation. It is dark, and it is cold, and there is movement in the trees. Up next, Keep My Name Out of Your Mouth by the Black Keys, and after that, Hangin' by a Moment by Lifehouse. That was Sword from the Stone by Passenger. I'm Taylor Barr, your midnight DJ, and there is a new statue in town, folks. It is a solid stone, 10-foot tall monstrosity of what appears to mostly be a baby. Its head is the remains of a meteorite, solid iron wrapped around the stone of space debris. It looks like a sponge almost, except made of stone and metal and space magic. The statue just kind of appeared earlier this week. No one built it, or at least won't admit to it, almost like it brought itself here. I stared at it for a few minutes. It was tantalizing, captivating. I stared at good old Astrohead, as I've taken to calling it, and it spoke to me. It told me that I shouldn't worry about anything because I am a magic being. Me, your radio DJ, is a magic guy. Doubtful. I've never shown signs of being particularly magical, but I played along. All right, Astro. How do I know you're a true telepathic statue and not just some other ghost in my brain? I asked. How do I know I'm magic and not crazy? The statue turned its ferrous skull my way with a great cracking. The ground shook. The sky turned a vibrant brown, and the baby stood up, pushed its face into the dirt. It screamed. I think it still is. I don't know. It got awkward and I left. Up next, Imaginary Ships by Big Head Todd and the Monsters. And after that, Letter to You by Bruce Springsteen. You just heard Caution by The Killers. I'm Taylor Barr, your midnight DJ. And Sam grabbed his handheld mirror off the dresser. He eyed the details in the metalwork. Ridges of roses framed the glass, and the handle was made of an old cherry wood, worn by the years. The silver had tarnished some few decades ago, and the glass was smudged and cracked. The minor imperfections in the mirror enraged Sam. He took the looking-glass into another room and wrapped it in towels, blankets, pillows, really anything he could find. He kept burying it under cloth, but it wasn't enough. He knew that it was still not perfect. It screamed at him. The mirror had a hold of Sam, and he had no clue what to do about it. He threw the mirror out of the window, where it landed softly in the grass. It still screamed at him. Sam tossed the mirror over a bridge into a river where he thought the water might drown out the noise of imperfection. It did not. Sam drove back to the river and dived in. He swam towards the soured notes from the mirror, and the mirror stood upright, pointed directly at Sam. He looked at the mirror, only to notice the imperfections had gone. The water had healed the mirror. Sam reached for it, but his hand passed through. Up next, How to Save a Life by The Fray, a few announcements, and after that, Waiting on a War by the Foo Fighters. You just heard Redemption by Nathaniel Rateliff. I'm Taylor Barr, your Midnight DJ. And Bree was in big trouble. She'd recently come into a bit of wealth, you see, from some not so reputable sources, right? So her husband died. No big. It happens. Everyone dies as far as I know. But now everyone's coming out of the gutters saying stuff like, my dad would never choke on his own soup, and dad didn't even like soup. This wasn't true. Their father loved soup, just not the soup that their children made. Bree tried to explain this to the lawyers, but they wouldn't budge. They said they needed proof that Bree did not kill her husband. Of course I didn't kill him. I love the man with all my heart. I wiped his butt a few times. You mean to tell me you think I could kill him? I'm hurt, kids, Bree said to her children. But her children did not care. The massive wealth that Bree was supposed to be inheriting right about now was more than enough to keep her and her husband's children very healthy and very spoiled. They didn't understand what they were taking from her mother. The estate, the house they grew up in, sure, but also the house that Bree and her husband had built together. Those two children were the absolute worst. Up next, Favorite Mistake by Sheryl Crow, and after that, Peach Fuzz by Camp. That was Strong Enough by Ray LaMontagne. I'm Taylor Barr, your Midnight DJ, and you can donate just about anything. I donate blood. Often. In hopes for two things. One, so that my O-negative blood can save people's lives. And two, so that my blood in someone else's body may someday overtake them. I donate my clothes, too. When my pants get too small or my shirts are wrinkled beyond repair, I take a pile of the old clothes to the local donation facility, usually at Goodwill's, if I can find them. I do this, too, in hopes that my clothes will possess the human that inhabits them. I donate my time. As a full-time college student, with a part-time job and many creative projects, I often find myself not doing much, abandoning the hours given to me. So I have started volunteering. It's a great gig. They don't pay, but I get to take care of the cutest little puppies down at the shelter. Oh, they have such cute little faces and tails. They've recently started speaking, and it's so cute. I'll come into the pound, and they'll all be chipping in with, I'm gonna eat you, and let me eat your face, and I have seen death, and she is beautiful. Our dog's just the best. Up next, Naked Eye by Luscious Jackson, and after that, Coney Island by Taylor Swift. But before I let you go, it's just about midnight, and you know what that means. It's the end of my shift, but don't worry, I'll be back. Today was pretty good. Tomorrow will be even better.